Thank you to everybody who's here. You're all manufacturers. You took time off before today to come see us for Manufacture the Future, so thank you very much. Also want to thank our sponsor for all the breakout sessions, Kieran, Donovan, McGee, as we know in KPM. We're supportive of the breakout sessions today, so thank them for that. MassCEC, are you all customers of MassCEC, or? Well, I'm sorry to say your prices are going up. No, so we're MassCEC, obviously. There are MEPs in every state and Puerto Rico. We're supported by NIST. In the wake of this event, we will follow up with you because continuous improvement is important to us. We want to make sure that next year's sessions are even better and make sure they speak to everything that you're telling us. So we will be following up with you in the wake of this. So please just give us a couple minutes, take some time to respond. We have a great session set up today, TDMI, Technology-Driven Market Intelligence. Peter is our facilitator. We have a wonderful panel. And with that, Peter, you can take it and run.
Yeah, thanks.
All right,
and again, thank you for coming. Let me quickly just remind you of where it falls within MassCEC. So my name is Peter Russo. I used to be a MassCEC employee years ago. They now call me in once in a while when we're doing a specialized program. MassCEC delivers at various levels and different types of services for your manufacturing. It really breaks down into operational efficiency type things. That's where most people know MassCEC. But also it has strategic growth initiatives, and it also has innovation and growth. This program somewhat falls within the second two halves of this. Today what we'll do is we'll cover, we have a program going with MassCEC, and Heather's going to talk about that, introduce herself and talk about MassCEC and the programs they have. Then we'll move into, there's 4 parts. That part, then come on in, and really push on the spot. Then I'll quickly, we'll move over to Steve McManus. He's from Research Triangle Institute. They created the TDMI process that we work with. Then we'll move into the 3 workshops that we're currently doing that are a version of this program. And then the best part, which is to have 2 people, Anne, who went through this over the last month. So, I'm gonna embarrass her and ask what kind of impact it made after 30 days. And if she says anything other than nothing, I'll be really happy because it's hard to make impact in 30 days. And Kristen, who I did this program with in 2016.
We started in 2014 and then
Yeah, so you'll get a good idea of what happens immediately and what can happen long term. So I'll hand it over right now to Heather.
Okay, you can move over. I mean, there's only a couple slides. So thanks, MassCEC, for bringing us together. My name is Heather Marciniec. I'm a program manager on the workforce development team at the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, MassCEC. I'm happy to be here on behalf of MassCEC as a funding partner of this MassCEC work. I don't know if everyone is familiar with MassCEC. We are a quasi-public economic development agency working to grow the state's clean energy and climate tech economy. We're also working to help the state meet our very ambitious climate goals, which is reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% by 2030 and reaching net zero by 2050. We're also doing that while driving high quality long-term job creation and equitable statewide economic development. So we do that through the 4 core areas on this slide. We, through investment of innovation and clean tech companies, supporting clean tech startups with new technologies to grow and make sure those new technologies can grow and thrive. We try to accelerate decarbonization of buildings, transportation, and the electric grid. We enable large-scale deployment, particularly offshore wind and solar through investments. And lastly, we are working to grow and diversify the clean energy workforce, which is where my department's work comes in. So go to the next slide. The MassCEC Workforce Development Department has 3 priority areas: student and young adults, helping student and young adults explore clean energy careers. So for example, we support internships at companies. You can apply to host an intern, and that will be funded. We also support both new entrant workers as well as incumbent workers to gain the new skills that they'll need to do that. We do that through funding to training providers, a diverse group of training providers. And then also we support climate critical underrepresented businesses. You see that CUBs. An example of an underrepresented, underserved business might be a MWBE. MWBEs are minority or women-owned business enterprises. So through CUBs, through the CUBs program and the initiative, what we're trying to do is support historically excluded businesses to be able to really grow through the new clean energy markets. And so those would be businesses whose workers are really directly focused on high growth, climate critical occupations through the design, the manufacture, the maintenance, or the installation of clean energy projects. So some examples of those might be contractors pivoting to more solar installation or HVAC heat pump manufacturers, small parts components for heat pumps, EV electrical vehicle maintenance infrastructure, and of course building retrofits as well. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. So we're trying to support CUBs through a new hub and spoke model across 7 workforce regions throughout the state. So we're hoping that this model will be more accessible and more consistent to businesses, underserved businesses, no matter where they are in the state. So the idea is that the hub will provide accessible, consistent business support services and business development services, and then they'll work alongside the spokes who will offer specialized clean energy sector-specific technical assistance. And we're hoping that the hub and spokes in the region can work together to then provide coordinated support to underserved businesses to grow in clean energy. But before we launch this new model, we're already, of course, investing in targeted efforts. For example, the MassCEC MWBE Clean Energy Power Pivot Program. We're really excited to keep learning about how small manufacturers can use this program to assess the clean energy markets and decide whether and how to pursue them. We're learning a lot through this program, not only through MassCEC's sector-specific research, but all about how small manufacturers can use their existing businesses and services to pivot to these sectors. And so that really supports our broader goal, which is increasing access to clean energy opportunities. So we're excited to kind of see where this future goes, and basically we want to continue no matter what we do to help small manufacturers be able to access clean energy opportunities, and to explore those opportunities. But you need programs like this to make those opportunities accessible. So on that note, I'll hand it over to Steve.
Let me touch on that. So first of all, everything you're going to see today, if you're a minority or woman-owned business, you can get these services for free through this program. If you're not a minority or woman-owned business, you can get these free services through the Express Grant. So with the state. So pretty much you're covered in getting some support in these programs today. Just to give you an idea, we've been now working with MassCEC to find some areas that really come to immediate opportunities for you. And it's great after you just heard the thing on pricing, because underneath all that work she's talking about on pricing is, what's your value proposition? You don't have to argue price as much if you have a value proposition that's unique. A huge part of what we're doing in these programs is trying to find out what makes you unique, so you're not bidding on build to print. Build to print is a quick way of getting into a pricing argument. In clean energy, there's an amazing group. We have Greentown Labs, we have all sorts of accelerators, growth organizations, MIT Engine. We have an enormous amount of clean energy growth businesses going on, including places like the small ones, There's places as big as Commonwealth Fusion who's looking for suppliers, $1 billion in funding. They haven't sold anything. They're not going to until 2000. It's 3 years from now. But it's interesting because what I'm encouraging people to look at is these are the other things. When she got up there today and said, "Gee, what else do you have? What else? What are the other problems?" When someone says, "I need a better price," do they know that you can design for excellence? Do they know that you can help material selection, equipment process, tracking and QC, inventory, shipping possibilities, design documentation? And I met a small company that was actually working with a very large company, and they said their key reason for keeping that large company was they made documentation really easy for them with the military. Is it parts material management? Is it assembly? Is it something else? So we're going to talk about how do you analyze. This is my quick analysis of the clean energy market for those special needs they have. But TDMI, and Steve's going to jump into that now, goes out and it's a robust process to assess the technical feasibility you may have, the capabilities you have. So the first thing we want to do is find out what makes you special, understand the market trends in that area, identify the competitive landscape, explore commercial pathways, and then in the meantime, the everyday things you need like value propositions and leveraging that for pitches. So Steve's going to talk about RTI and the process, which again, this is a process that sometimes takes 40 hours of time. Comes in second, but up to 40 hours in time. So he's going to explain it in 8 minutes.
I thought I had 10. So as Peter mentioned, I'm with Research Triangle Institute, or as we call ourselves now, RTI International. We've done in the Research Triangle, Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, large nonprofit independent research institute. So we do a lot of research in a lot of different areas. I work for a group within RTI called Innovation Advisors, and we got our start back in the 1960s doing tech transfer for NASA, and did it for many decades. And over the years, we've added federal, other government, as well as private companies. We work a lot with manufacturing startups, and the TDMI process, as we call it, is a version of that work, that process that we originally developed with NASA. So we're engineers and scientists doing this work. Just stepping back, we're talking about manufacturing your future, and usually in your future as a manufacturer, your growth is somewhere in that thinking. But where does growth come from? A nice construct that McKinsey developed a while ago was the Three Horizons construct. So, if you look at the sources of potential new growth for a manufacturer, they can come from your core. There we go. I can't really see it. They can come from your core, and that core means basically your core business, your core customer base, your markets that you're already in right now. And those are typically opportunities that are well within your reach. You know those markets, your salespeople and marketing people are targeting them. But there are also two other horizons beyond your core. The second one being adjacent markets or emerging markets. These are, you probably know something about these. You may have had a customer call in, or a potential customer that says, hey, I have a need here, and they're not in your current market. So they kind of pique your interest, but many times maybe don't go after that opportunity because you don't know enough about it, or it may require some additional capability that you don't yet have. You may have to invest in that, and is it worth it? So that's Horizon 2, and the bar is a little higher for that. To pursue those, usually that opportunity has to be a little bit bigger, right? Because of more unknowns. So you have to justify that. And then further beyond are kind of the new disruptive markets that are not quite adjacent. You might leverage something that you have, but it really will require even greater investment in new capabilities, whether that's manufacturing or marketing or both, sales. And so the bar's even higher for that. But those are the three spaces where a manufacturer can consider where new growth opportunities might come from.
We, by the way, will help you in this program with all three of those.
Yeah. And but TDMI is really more focused on emerging, adjacent, and new. So just diving a little bit deeper into what is technology-driven market intelligence. So let's focus first on the technology-driven part. Technology-driven is the new kind of the value add that we bring with this process. The fact that because it's done by people with technical expertise as well as business expertise, when we're exploring opportunities, we can consider your technical capabilities in depth, and we focus early in these projects on understanding the depth of what you do before we go out and look. So that's the technology-driven part that helps us better identify relevant opportunities and where you may have benefited in those opportunities or applications. And then second half is market intelligence. That's kind of a little more widely understood. That's basically where you're going out doing research to bring back information on markets and ultimately use that information to develop a strategy, or for us to recommend to the client what they should do. Okay, so that's a little bit of background on TDMI. As a manufacturer, what are the situations where you might have a need for this service? Well, it boils down to two main use cases. The first is where you've invented something, or you acquired some new capability. You have a product idea that's novel, or you think it's novel, and you need to understand, does this thing have legs? Are there markets and opportunities that are worth pursuing? What markets could I sell this offering into? And then the second one is essentially where it's not necessarily a new capability, it's your current capabilities or set of capabilities, or maybe a subset of those. And you want to understand, maybe you're looking for growth and you feel like perhaps in your current markets you're not seeing those opportunities. So you understand you need to diversify, look beyond your current markets. So that's the other main use case for TDMI, where there are more technical unknowns, there are more market unknowns, things that you don't know because you're not already in that space, and you need that kind of technical and market analysis to help you understand where are those opportunities. So what is the value of TDMI? Essentially, it brings back insights that help you better understand what your opportunities are, and one way to think of that is it helps you perform a more rigorous business analysis. So in this case, a SWOT analysis. So it helps you, in other words, it helps you better understand from a technical and business standpoint what are your strengths and weaknesses as a company as it relates to different markets that we're investigating, and also what are the opportunities and threats in those markets? How large is the market opportunity, not just in general, but for you? What are the forces that are shaping it? What are the dynamics in those markets? And what are the market entry opportunities and the partners that can help you get there? And I'll touch on that a little bit more in the next slide. And so how do we gather all this information? Well, first of all, technology driven, we're able to gather that relevant technical information because we're technically trained and understand manufacturing. We also, of course, understand the business side of things. A key part of this TDMI research is that we don't just do internet research, we also do quite a bit of primary research, not just customer discovery, but we'll also talk to experts and get insights along the value chains in these potential markets, talk to industry experts and observers, and gather insights that you can't get no matter how well you are able to run an AI prompt, because that information is not in a database anywhere, it's in someone's head. And then finally, I mentioned we've been working on this type of work since the late 60s. We have very mature, proven processes that are supported by a robust tool set.
So, that, again, that's a very succinct pitch on what's a very complex or detailed process, not complex. It's not a difficult process to understand. But we dive in really tight to it. We'll have Kristen as an example in a minute of Because you think oftentimes you see a presentation like this, you think mass, and you're thinking, well, I don't have a truly wildly unique invention or material to sell. She has a very unique capability that she's selling. We'll get to that in a second. Now, TDMI is wonderful. A lot of people don't have the capabilities that they want to go that deep into it, but they still need that strong value proposition, which is a big part of the TDMI. It's a big part of the pricing discussion a minute ago. So we've also found that both the initial stages of a TDMI and a basic need of everyone are these two things, which is I need a strong value proposition. I need to truly understand what my unique proposition is in the marketplace, how to communicate that. Why is it important in this marketplace? How do I get insights that I can use in a narrative where people actually care, and what story is going to engage the client? And people tend to say, if I ask this crowd, raise your hand if you know what your value proposition is. You probably raise your hand, and if I ask you to tell me what it is, you'd stutter around for a minute and a half. You won't necessarily have the 15-second or 30-second pitch. If you do, great, because that'll help you get ahead in the TDMI. But we always start out. And for this program, this was sponsored by MassCEC. We created 4 programs with this. One is a workshop on defining your value proposition. Once you know what your value proposition unique thing is, we work with an AI program to help you identify ideal customers. We help you identify the customer, qualify the customer, and talk about how to market to them in different ways using new techniques. Then we move into marketing and sales strategy, and then for some people, relative to that program funded by MassCEC, we have 8 companies we're going to award a full TDMI to, and like I said, we also have that in the Express grant. So what I want to talk about today and give you examples of is each of these workshops and how it ends up affecting companies. So that's what we have Ann here from Al and I'm never going to say something right. Al and Manufacturing, and I'll let you, take 30 seconds and kind of give your current status or your value proposition that you're currently working with. Okay, well we don't need that. Tell us about your business and where you're at and how you got to be owner, manager of your business.
So I'm Ann McManus. I'm representing my business, Al and Manufacturing. It was started by my parents back in 2000. Then my sister and I decided to take it over 3 years ago now. So we do machining and engineering, and we try to build really strong relationships with our clients and help them kind of throughout the process. So someone can come to us with a complete drawing and just say, I need you to machine it. We can do that. They can also come to us with, we're having this issue, can you help us solve it? And we can design that solution for them and prototype it, build it for them, or modify it or whatever. So we recently moved up to Princeton from South Shore, and now we're trying to settle in here and get roots and really kind of, now that we're taking over the business, just grow and think about it in a more structured way. So kind of just starting over, but starting obviously from a very strong base.
And bring your sister and your unique capabilities into the picture. What made you think of doing these 3 workshops?
So I mean, like I said, we're already kind of trying to think of growing and marketing and how to do that and getting involved. We happened to be at a women in manufacturing event, my sister and I, and we ran into somebody there, and she actually put us in contact with somebody from MassCEC because we hadn't heard of it, and so she had told us about these workshops, and we were like, wait, this is exactly where we're looking, so it's perfect.
And MassCEC has business development advisors. If you don't have one, again, it's kind of like your account exec for manufacturing services. And they can tell you things, they can tell you things like these workshops are going on. When there's special workshops, they'll tend to let you know about it, and they can help you with MassCEC services, but also tell you about other services that are happening that you probably get more emails than you really want, so you have a tough time deciphering through. If they know about your business, they can help produce the things you need to go through. But I'd suggest you have one. So you went to the first workshop, which was defining your value proposition and how did it work out? Did it change your viewpoint? Did it change your viewpoint and how did it affect your internal people and thinking?
So it absolutely did.
This is a month ago, by the way. So.
Very recent. So, yeah, I mean, just like I said, kind of thinking about it in a more structured way. So, like, we all kind of know our business, but then when you start asking questions about, like, what kinds of customers do you have? What makes them good customers? What do you bring to the table? All of a sudden, you're like, well, I know, but how do I verbalize that? And so, it really kind of got us thinking about, you know, who we are as a business and like what we do fail, and what kinds of customers we really like to partner with and then help us figure out where to look.
Any aha moment? Surprise?
Probably not too crazy. Mostly it was just, I think the biggest aha was that, you know, in 2000 when my parents started, they started a machine shop. And like, the aha was kind of, well, we're not just a machine shop. Like, we do so much more than that. But that was still how we were presenting ourselves. So kind of capturing that other value will be, I think, a big step. And we're in the middle of.
Again, you're not built to print,
Right.
just built to print. And you went to the AI session, and you even used up the value. Well, first of all, what's your value proposition now?
Well, it's very new, so I don't.
This is you can read it out there.
So whether a napkin sketch or mature design, we partner with inventors and engineers alike. And so we co-create through practical DFM insight and open communications. And we aim to achieve the best balance of creativity, quality, cost, speed, and function to turn your vision into reality.
And you even used AI on that a little bit.
A little bit.
To perfect.
Very useful tool.
Yeah. You went to the identify the ideal customer. What was the key insight there that you walked away with?
Well, actually, it was kind of what ended up driving that value proposition was thinking about what makes a good customer that we have currently and what does that relationship look like, which it really did end up being that it was more of a partnership. It wasn't so much, and these are still great customers that come and say like, hey, can you make this part? Like, that's still great, but our best relationships were the ones that they can rely on us and we can rely on them and we can trust each other and have that open communication to, you know, I can have them say like, hey, if you machine this out of that instead, like, we can do it for half the cost. Like, do you really need them? And sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So being able to have that kind of communication was, or is, not was.
Well, it's fun to talk to you, and it'll be interesting to talk to Kristen afterwards, because like I said, it's been 3 months or whatever, and the last one, which you went to, I think a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, the marketing and sales planning, how has that affected you? Have you started to create a plan? Is it different than what you had previously thought about?
Yeah, I mean, before we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants. It's like, I mean, let's just get our name out there, which is obviously still good. But what I really like to do coming out of this is kind of sit down and think about our ideal customers and create those like customer personas, because then that can help inform, well, where are they going to be looking and what are they looking for? What pain points can we solve for them? So it's just helping organize our approach to sales and marketing, which is very helpful.
And by the way, we have a 3-hour session for each of those 3, and then we also have a 15-hour that gets more into how do you truly implement it. It's hard in 3 hours to start implementing or creating what your final outcome is. Last question, quick thought on where do you hope to be 6 months or a year from now?
I mean, I hope to have $10 million, you know.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think just if we see new customers, if we see new,
That would be a metric.
new markets, really, that would kind of tell me that this has been helpful. So.
And if I remember right, you said, and it's a really remarkable compliment to your parents and your company. But if I remember right, you said, yeah, we have really consistent business, but we don't get new customers very often. We just serve the existing customers and our business stays constant. So how to keep them and bring in the new people will be interesting.
Exactly.
Thank you. I look forward to it. It's been fun, you know, because now I get to talk to Kristen, who, again, it's 2015 I first met you. 2016 we started this process. What was happening then? Because you took over a family business also.
Yeah, almost similar story, a little different, a little sad, but so Peerless Precision was founded in 1976 by a guy named Stan Olikna, a grinder from another shop who decided, like a lot of people back then and still now, like I can go run my own business. My dad bought it in 1997. I started sweeping floors and cleaning material out of machines at 15. In 2012, well in 2009, my dad had been diagnosed with colon cancer. And at the time I was living in California, like I was the one who we always wanted to be doing what I'm doing now, and I said, F you, I'm gonna do what I want. And I moved to California, and then when he got sick, he asked me if I would, if something happened, would I come home and help my mother either decide to sell the company or keep it going, and I said absolutely. And unfortunately, after being given a clean bill of health and metastasized in end of October 2012, he passed away. So I came back here in September of 2012, and it was navigating a company that I had grown up in, where a lot of my now employees saw me as that 16-year-old girl, and one of the things my foreman had told me at the time, or said did not tell me, but you know, machinists are gossipers, and you hear everything in the shop. She's just some silly little girl who doesn't know what she's doing, and she's going to run the company into the ground. And I said, challenge accepted. So I didn't leave California and give up everything I had out there to fail, you know, or to sell the company. Come to find out, you knew what I was good at. Dad was right.
So
you know.
So you and I first met. We did strategic planning stuff.
Yeah. So when we first met, it was actually during the first downturn that I had ever been part of. I had been running the company for 2 years, and it started in 2013 to 14 during the budget cut, sequestration, government had shut down, and I was like, you know, we have had two. I mean, these are still my two biggest customers, but these were our two bread and butter customers, and we had a lot of little ones. Usually when there were slowdowns, one was defense aerospace, the other is strictly defense night vision cameras, thermal imaging. When one slowed down, the other one picked up. Sometimes they were both up here, this time they both dropped down. And it's like, how do we not have this happen again? You know,
in this case, it was a little different than a typical TDMI because she had an urgent issue at hand. And so we jumped immediately into strategic planning. What'd you get out of that, first of all? Before we even started TDMI or marketing or sales stuff?
So you're the first person who told me to remember that I'm the boss and I can make the decisions. That's what I got. No, it's more, it had been, I had to figure this company out for myself, which was a blessing and a curse at the same time. So it was really, I know where we are right now, but I have no idea how to get what the future's gonna look like. How do we get there? Because at the time I was, battling with some of the people in my shop over dominance and being the alpha in there and everything like that. So it was really working with you on growing the business and developing a strategic plan. We were very much into passive sales at that point because we have a really good reputation, and it would just come to us. But that's not going to grow the company.
So on that strategic planning side of things, it was funny. I used to offer a program called Drive Your Business, or Let Your Business Drive You, and that was what Kristen did. She said, so the first part of that was, and people, oftentimes private owners, think about this last. What do you want to get out of your life in this? Running a business is hard, so we did that whole thing first. Before we tried to market the company, what do you want to get out of it? How big do you want it to be? Do you want family members involved in it? Do you? Well, we won't get into it personally, but anyway, she had all those things. Once that was done, now it became, how do you market it?
Yeah.
We did both. We did the value proposition first, and then after we knew what your specialties were, we went and talked to TDMI.
Right.
What was the aha in your value proposition?
So it's, we do very specialized niche work. We have CNC machines. We also have the company was founded on ground lapping and boning. That's where those 5 millions of an inch tolerances that can we can hold come from. And my aha, like I felt pigeonholed in aerospace and defense. And then we've got a little in the medical device world and everything. It was the aha moment was starting to opening my eyes that there are other industries out there that need parts that are that tight in tolerance. Maybe maybe not always that tight, but now, working with you helped me find my voice and to be able to speak very, well about what our company does and how we can help you develop the parts that you need to make without worrying about it.
And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but
Please do.
one thing that I remember that was really kind of interesting was coming up the value proposition. This happens oftentimes. Also helped your internal focus. Because I remember you saying the 5 million times, I said 5 million times, and I owned a product development company. I went, wow, and I forget that some helix of flatness or something. I don't know.
One helium light band of flatness.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can maintain 3 thousandths of an inch wall thickness on titanium. We don't touch anything that is wider open than plus or minus a tenth.
So
10 thousandths of an inch. That is, yeah.
I had heard that, and I said every time, and you said we want to be able to do it for one part, we want to do it for 100 parts, and we got talking, and the shop was giving you a little bit of a hard time because sometimes when they knew they were only going to do 3, they say, we'll make 20, and the 3 that pass, we'll charge enough for the 20 to make the 3 that pass go. And you said, I can't have that anymore. We're going to have a statement, and everyone's going to stick to it. We're going to make our processes make it so we can make 1, not 20 and throw out 19, but 1 or 100 and do it right.
We would never throw out those 17. They would go into finished goods, and we would hope that the customer would want more later on. Or now I ask them, hey, we have some extra. Do you want them?
Yeah.
And sometimes they take them, sometimes they don't.
So, did it help you get a value proposition? Did that help you rest of your company?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then moving from that into TDMI, then you did TDMI. Did it help you evaluate any new markets?
Yeah, we started looking into more commercial, which we've successfully gotten into. I think at the time I was actually working with RTI doing the TDMI. We'd actually brought in my first new customer. We were working on, getting them, really comfortable with us, proving ourselves, and then found out that they were looking for us all along while this was all going on. I don't think if I had been in the middle of the TDMI and working with you, we would still have them. Just because it's okay. Here's what you came to us for now. We successfully made this part. Let's see what else we can help you out with. Like, how can I solve problems? We've worked in the robotics a little bit. Sometimes that can be up and down because we've done quite a bit with startups out of Greentown. They're looking for the cheap price, which when you're every time you add a 0 after a decimal place, you're adding a 0 to the end of the price. Because that's manual, that is a feel, that is not a CNC machine doing that. Machines can't do that, people have to.
Do you turn business away? I know, that's a great example because they over-tolerance all the time. Startups over-tolerance.
Oh yeah, well it's so easy to over-tolerance and just engineers do, I'm sorry if there's any engineers in here, but I've worked in construction and now machining. Engineers on everything over-design, over-engineer, just because you can add 6, numbers after the decimal place doesn't mean you should or you need to,
So you know to turn things, what to turn away now.
Yeah.
Where do you hope to go? How does this affect you? That's another question. Has it affected what you invest in equipment and so forth? And where are you compared to where you were? We only have about a minute and a half left, but how has this helped you on your growth strategic plan and equipment purchase, that sort of
So I have actually got more comfortable with diving in head first to bring in new capabilities that we're not always comfortable with. But whether it's because to solve a problem for an existing customer, we bring in a new client and we start off with, what we already have, and then if we bring this piece of machinery in, whether it's inspection or on the shop floor, this will make it faster. So since this, we're not a welding company at all, but we have laser welding in-house now. To solve a specific problem that my customer didn't think I was barking up the right tree, and then now we, provide. Look, I'm just trying to provide you a solution. We're not the problem causers. This is going on right now. We've invested in more we've improved the technology in our inspection department to help cut time out, to be able to get, we can't boast plus or minus 5 millionths of an inch without being able to test that. So we have we're investing in new inspection equipment, whether it be portable CMMs and instant measurement systems, cylindricity machines, to be able to provide our customers the data they need to prove that out.
So now you're in medical, military, pretty much everything.
Medical, military, aerospace, we have parts that we helped lab for cryogenic steel that are gonna be on the lunar landing modules. Commercial optics, so if you see giant microscopes and 3D measuring systems, those lens housings were probably made at Peerless. They're critically cosmetic, which when you're an aerospace defense manufacturer, you know, to make it's machine things in a lines that's visually appealing,
Yeah.
but this it has to be pretty, shiny, no nicks, stings, or whatever, like you can't breathe on it, no fingerprints, they hold it under the sun and they're like, it's discolored over there, I'm like, where? You know?
Well, just say, your dad would love what you've done.
Thank you.
So, that's it for our time, and thank you all a lot, and you know, we've got a few minutes between sessions. If anyone wants to stay and ask any questions, feel free, but otherwise you can head to your next section, and please give us a call.
I will add real quickly, since our work together, I doubled our sales.
Oh,
Double sales.
oh, wait,
Thanks,
finish it, Kristen.
Very the lead on that one.
Yeah, very the lead.
No, that's me, but it can be done. Doubled our sales than the pandemic.
Bye, have a good rest of your
Someone dropped a cell phone.
Yeah,
This might be helpful for us too.
Thank you.
We'll be out there soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming,
you.
appreciate it.
I enjoyed both the stories.
I talked to him 2 days ago. I mean, he just
The
retired.
last surprise.
I've heard a lot of
Thank you so much.
Yes.